had to put a name to the conspiracy that's come down to us through the ages, that some call the Illuminati, some other people call it other things. But I think if you boil it down to its purest, simplest form, you would identify it essentially as Freemasonry. Now that might surprise some of you, but understand that Masonry has been around a long, long time. It may not have always been called Freemasonry, but Masons itself brag about the fact that their first Mason was Tubal-Cain. Now Tubal-Cain, if you know your Bible, was the seventh man from Adam by way of Cain, and he was the guy that invented metalworking. And he is supposedly the first Mason. Now that's pretty far back to start a conspiracy. Then of course you have the flood. After the flood, the Masons say that the first Mason was Nimrod. Now of course we all know who Nimrod was. He's the guy that helped build the Tower of Babel. That's pretty good Masonry. He was the person who basically had the idea for a one world government. He wanted to start a United Nations. He had all these great ideas, you know, one world government, all this kind of stuff, new world order. And God had other ideas. And God came down and he cast confusion and changed the languages of the people. So they went and scattered abroad on the earth. That basically tells us what God thinks about the United Nations. This caused the conspiracy to go underground. And for centuries it existed in various forms. And if you look in the books, the literature of Masonry, you will find that Masonry says it is the direct linear descendant from the ancient mystery religions, from the ancient fertility cults. Now what does that mean? That sounds sort of exciting and mysterious and exotic.
القارة الأمريكية يعني اكتشفت عند وصول كولومبوس إليها سنة 1492 وظلت يعني سنوات طويلة غير يعني مستعمرة من الأوروبيين. والحقيقة أن يعني الفضل في استيطان القارة الأمريكية يعود ليس إلى الحكومات الأوروبية. يعني فكرة استيطان القارة الأمريكية البكر فكرة نبتت في ذهن الحركات السرية، وهي التي تتولد تطبيقها في الفعل. وكانت فلسفة طبعا الماسونية والحركات السرية التي هي جسم كبير متشعب في أوروبا وفي تاريخ الغرب يعني وفي حالة صراع مستديم مع سلطاته ومع القوى العقائدية والتاريخية والملكية فيه. كانت فكرة هذه الحركات أن القارة الأمريكية أرض بكر وخالية من العوائق، فليس فيها سلطات وليس لها تاريخ وليس فيها عقائد وليس هناك حواجز تحول بين من يسيطر عليها وبين أن يشكل مجتمعا جديدا بأفكاره هو وبأهدافه هو ولغاياته هو، وأن يسير هذا المجتمع أو هذا العالم الذي سوف يتكون إلى حيث يريد. فيعني يختصر ذلك عبارة يعني تشير في الأدبيات الماسونية، هي أنهم فطنوا إلى أن القارة الأمريكية هي التي ستحسم مصير العالم. من يسيطر على هذه الأرض البكر ويتمكن من إقامة عالم فيها بقواعده وقانونه ولغاياته هو الذي سيتمكن مع الوقت من السير بالعالم إلى ما يريد. فطبعا لا نريد الاستطراد في كلام نظري، لكن نقول تاريخيا ان اول عملية استيطان للقارة الامريكية كانت سنة 1587. هذه المحاولة رائدة والتي هي اول عملية استيطان تاريخية للقارة الامريكية الذي قام بها وهو السير والتر راليج، كان احد كبار اعضاء حركة الروزيكروشن، وهذه الحركة هي توأم الماسونية ولكنها اكثر منها انغلاقا واكثر سرية وهكذا.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
Satan does have plans for a one-world government, and you have to control the money.
Illuminized Masonic symbolism is all over America. On the back of the dollar bill on the left-hand side above the pyramid it says Annuit Coeptus, which means our enterprise is now a success, or a crowned success. So what enterprise does it mean? Well, Novus Ordo Seclorum near the bottom, Novus meaning new, Ordo is order, Seclorum is where we get our word secular, meaning the world. So it means new order of the world, simply new world order. So what it's saying is the New World Order is now a crowned success. This was put on the dollar bill in 1934. 1934 is when the Federal Reserve took total control of the United States monetary system. The Fed is essentially controlled by two Illuminati bloodlines, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, placed the seal on the dollar bill. Roosevelt was also in the Order of the Nobles of a mystic shrine known for its satanic rituals. The pyramid has 13 steps. In fact, the number 13 is on the bill everywhere. 13 leaves on the olive branch, 13 berries, 13 stripes on the shield, 13 arrows, 13 stars, 13 letters on E pluribus unum, and 13 letters in Annuit Coeptus. Now some people believe 13 is on the bill due to the 13 colonies, but dig a little bit deeper and you'll find the real answer. 13 also represents the 13 top Illuminati families that he traced back to the late 18th century and the early 19th century. He is credible, and that's why he was framed by the government and thrown in a cage. 1776 is in Roman numerals near the bottom. Some think it's because of the founding of the country. Another case of subliminal, indirect, reverse psychological propaganda. 1776 is when the Illuminati was formed. The New World Order. Another striking fact is that the eagle has 32 feathers on the right wing, the number of ordinary degrees of the Scottish Rite. There's 33 feathers on the left wing, representing the 33rd degree. The tail has 9 feathers, which represents the 9th degree of the York Rite. The eagle itself is a prominent icon in Masonry, extensively used in the Scottish Rite.
Many of the United States presidents have blood relations with each other. The Bush lineage has blood ties to a great number of former presidents. George Washington, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, Grover Cleveland, Teddy Roosevelt, William Taft, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford. Arion points out in his work that Bush is closely related to every European monarch on and off the throne, and has kinship with every member of Britain's royal family. Bush's family tree can be documented as far back as the early 15th century. He has a direct descent from Henry III and from Henry VIII's sister Mary Tudor. He is also descended from Charles II of England. And we also find that George W. Bush is a direct descendant of Godfrey the Bullion. Godfrey was the first king of Jerusalem after he recaptured it from the Saracens, which was the name for the Islamic faith during the Middle Ages. It is interesting to note that the current occupation of the United States in the Middle East was re-established by the same family, George Bush Sr. in 1991, and again by George Bush Jr. in 2003. George Bush Jr. is then found to be a cousin to both opposing candidates of his 2 terms in office, Al Gore and John Kerry. Democratic President Barack Obama also has blood ties with George W. Bush, as well as Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman, James Madison, and the British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. On the opposing side of the 2008 presidential ballot, John McCain is descended from Robert the Bruce, King William I of Scotland, and also Godfrey the Bullion.
In either of those first two books, though, who knew you and Dick Cheney cousins?
You know, listen, I don't think I'm going to family reunion. I don't know how I'll be greeted.
We all know his father, but what about his cousins? A heartbeat away from the presidency is actually a blood relation. He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama is also Bush's 11th cousin. President Lincoln was President Bush's 7th cousin 5 times removed. And Bush shared more than just a ballot with John Kerry. That's right, they're 9th cousins twice removed. Trace the family tree far enough, and you get Madonna, Celine Dion, and Tom Hanks.
Christine, you've heard the adage politics makes strange bedfellows. Apparently politics also makes for strange relations. Thanks to the New England Historic Genealogical Society, we now know the presidential candidates are related to a host of famous and historic figures.
In this primary campaign.
I opposed this war in 2002.
But do you know their relatives? Obama is distantly related to 6 presidents: George W. and George H.W. Bush, Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry S. Truman, and James Madison. Obama's family tree also includes Sir Winston Churchill and Civil War General Robert E. Lee.
Thank you all. Thank you.
She's also related to beatnik author Jack Kerouac and the wife of Prince Charles of England. John McCain's ancestry was more difficult to trace, but it's known he's the 6th cousin of First Lady Laura Bush.